Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This is my regular monthly look at my bud spikes and blooms. So everything in bud spike or bloom on the 8th. And as happens now and again, if the 8th falls on a Sunday, I move it forward to the 9th on the Monday. Occasionally it gets pushed to Tuesday as well. Monday's normally my day off. But yes, so it's getting a bit thin on the ground out here. There's several of the mini Phalaenopsis have finished blooming now. But this is interesting. If you look at the leaves on that Phalaenopsis, they're beautifully patterned. And the spike runs over here, and these are the blooms. Now, if you wanted to spend the time and effort looking those blooms up on the internet, you would come back with, I think that's Equestris. And you could be very right. Sorry, I pressed the button mid-sentence, I think. Except for the fact that this is also Equestris. Now, this is a peloric version, but nonetheless the blooms are identical apart from the extra lips, so the same coloration and everything. And this is Hannah's. When we bought this, it was at Burnham's, and it was in flower, and it had a tag on it saying Phalaenopsis equestris. And I said to Hannah at the time, it's probably a hybrid because I don't think equestris has patterned leaves. So, but she said, yeah, but I like it anyway. You know, doesn't matter what, so we took it. But I'm reasonably convinced it is actually the genuine article. But it does have patterned leaves, so maybe it's just a primary cross with something else that's very similar but has patterned leaves and has brought that trait in. So it could be. This little one over here, these two mini phals, these four are all Hannah's. They're the mini phals that aren't mine. This one over here has got a spike. It's tiny, but it's down there next to that root. This one here hasn't flowered for ages, and I'm trying to get my phals identified in my notes. These two were the last two that I don't know. So I've now identified this one as a nice attractive mini white with a yellow centre and the faintest of pale pink tinges. So that's good, which means that's the only one that's not identified now. But it has a spike, so it won't be too long. Now, this is the white one with the terminal spike, which is growing a branch on the spike itself. One spike's been taken off. The two that are left are fading quickly, so that one's not going to be in bloom much longer. And then we wait to see what's going to happen with that terminal spike, and whether it's just going to produce a basal growth on the plant. But you know, I could have sent that back and got a replacement. They'd have done that readily if I'd asked, but I decided to keep it so that we've got a Phalaenopsis with a terminal spike to see what happens. And anybody else that gets caught with one inadvertently or unfortunately, at least there's some sort of guidance there. And then out of the mini phals that I bought, the 8, this is by far my favourite, but it is starting to fade now. That's just the yellow one. The ones that I bought, the 8, they have no names, but they all got given a letter and a description of the blooms next to them. So even though once they're all out of bloom and the spikes have been taken off, they'll all look very, very similar, I'll still know which one's which. And then the last one of those over here, this is the very attractive white one with the lovely pink markings on the bottom two sepals. Unfortunately, has seen better days. No branches on that spike. It is the last spike on that plant. So if it hasn't already been done, that one will be coming up for a repot very, very soon. But what I like about this white one is the very deep yellow edging on the side of the lip. It's a deep yellow, and that just makes it a bit unusual. So there we go, that's what's going on out here, and hopefully that wasn't too silhouetted, because as you can see it's an incredibly dull day outside. Supposed to be brightening up later, but I've heard that before. And I did put the kitchen light on this time to try and get some light from this side, so hopefully the colours were showing up reasonably well. So we'll head off into the grow room now and see what's going on out there. Okay, on out into the grow room. We'll do as we usually do, start on the left and work round. We usually start with the Ristrepias, and recently there haven't been any in bloom, but we do actually have some blooms today. We've got this pretty one here. As I say, I'll get as close as I can, but they normally go out of focus if I get too close. So there's that one. I'll do pop-ups of the names, as I've said. And this one is, it's in my notes as Falkenbergii, but I was reliably told that most of the ones at Burnham's are misnamed, and it's actually Brachypus or something or other. As I say, I'll do pop-ups. And then this one over here's got buds. They're not quite open yet. So yeah, from nothing in bloom, we've now got 3 Ristrepias with some blooms on. Oh, so my back's a bit stiff today. We have Blackjack. This will be open in a few days. The bud's swollen right up to almost full size now, so that will be open soon. That will be good. At the Orchid Society meeting on Saturday, my friend Alan, I've filmed his greenhouse before, his grow spaces. He had a nice Blackjack there with 2 spikes, both with double buds on, so that looked good. No, they weren't double buds, they were singles. The mini Phalaenopsis, as I've said, most of the spikes have dropped most of their blooms, and what's left are the branches. As you can see on this one, this is a typical example. The main spike's been cut off, and all that's left are the buds, the blooms on the end of the branches. That still means we've got the colour, they're still looking good. As each one goes out of bloom, I will repot them if they haven't already been done. And then this is one of Hannah's Phalaenopsis, and it's got an enormous spike on it. I don't know how many actual blooms there'll be, but it's got an enormous spike anyway. That's all there on that shelf. There's nothing on this top shelf. And coming over here, being careful not to trip over the dehumidifier. Infundibulum, still in bloom. These do last a long time. If you go, I mean, this is a monthly video. You can go back through the monthly videos and see this one in bloom in quite a few of them. It does well. It does well. Then the Prosthetia radiata, which I think is its confirmed most recent name. And if it's not, I'm not really fussed. These are not hugely attractive blooms. They're simplistic in their colour scheme. The camera is rendering the colour a paler colour than it actually is. They're bordering on very pale green, but in fact it's a deep cream colour. And then you've got the markings in the lip. But the fragrance, Hannah noticed it as soon as she walked in. She said, "Is that flipping radiata blooming again?" Because she doesn't like it. And then we've got another one of the mini Phalaenopsis here. Again, it's mostly the branches. This is the main spike here, down to its last bloom, and the branches are doing okay. Now I must remember this because it's up the back. Up the back is my Laelia anceps, and the spike is pushing on. Now, you can never say that a spike that is, I don't even know if I've got that in the camera because I can't see what I'm doing. I hold the camera at arm's length. A spike that's that long is not a good Laelia anceps spike. They should be 1 metre long, if not longer. I remember years ago, and this is years ago as well, it must be, a very popular YouTuber, Brad's Greenhouse, Canadian I believe he was, and he filmed some Laelia anceps spikes, and he was filming at head height, like I'm standing up now with the camera at head height, and he was filming his blooms like that, and then he backed up, the plant was on the floor, so the blooms were well over 1 metre long, and that's really how they should be. So mine's it's a weak plant. I mean, it's a recovering plant, so you know, in theory I shouldn't even let it bloom, but I'm going to. It's my favourite, absolute favourite Cattleya type bloom, so we'll let it go. Right then, coming over here, you will notice most of the Deisas are now there. The ones on the left have been potted, split, whatever I was going to do to them. They've already been done. You can see the sort of different coloration on the media. These over here I did yesterday morning, where I took all the spikes off that were fading and pushed them all into that tray. They all had their water changed yesterday, and these few are left out still to do. And this is the last blooms. They're going over, they're starting to brown, but this is the last of the Deisa blooms until next year now. And next year we will see their true blooming periods, because obviously I'll start getting spikes and then the first blooms will open, and on that plant I'll be putting a date when the blooms opened. So in future years, providing they survive long term, we'll know which are the early bloomers and which are the late bloomers. You know, I mean, most of these came down in bloom, so I had no idea how long the blooms had been open, or you know, when they first started or anything. But that's the last of the Deisas anyway, and that's Uniflora, I think that one is. Yeah, Uniflora, pink group. Right up here, we've had some spikes are going over. The one with the red flowers with the broken spike, that's gone now. So over here we've still got the remnants of this one. The blooms are fading. They lose their depth of colour as they start to fade, and they appear just duller. So they're on their way. They won't be long now, they'll be gone. But hey presto, another one has decided. This is a new growth, it's far from mature, it's pushing out a spike. So we will get some more new ones soon. The Shari Baby is steaming ahead with opening up its blooms a lot now. This is producing fragrance, but you have to come over this side of the grow room so that it can overpower the radiata the other side of the grow room. But you can see that the number of blooms on the branches is, you know, really extending the sheer number of blooms on this spike this time round. And I mean, the other spike's not too far behind. It's certainly not as good as this first one. But these are not fascinatingly or beautiful blooms. They're relatively, well, I won't say mundane, they're still orchid blooms, and they are a nice rich red colour. But compared with some oncidiums, to me they're a little dull. It's probably the lack of yellow. Most oncidiums have some yellow somewhere, even if it's only in the centre. But anyway, I'm pretty sure this is a variety of Shari Baby, not the original. So it's a named variety, of which I don't know, I just know it as Shari Baby. But yeah, good spike. So that's that. There's nothing else over here in bud. Oh yes, there is. There's my Phalaenopsis type Dendrobium. Keep forgetting that spike. We've got buds on there. They're nothing spectacular, but at least they're there. And that's pushed out a spike on a bare cane, which is a little unusual. They usually bloom off of the leaved canes, which are those two. Who knows, we might get some spikes on those too. And then down here we've got, this is one of my Phalaenopsis. It's not a very good spike with so few blooms, but then it's not a very good plant. It could do with potting better than that. It was potted over at that angle to be able to get most of the roots in the pot. it could do with straightening up, basically. But it's a nice attractive Phalaenopsis. It's I would call a typical Phalaenopsis, you know, very pale centre, going dark very quickly as it heads outwards, and then very pale at the edges, and nice coloration and patterning in the lip. I think if I get down low enough, we've got the spots. Yes, and we've got the spots on the two lowest sepals. Then Hibiki, this is still doing well, and I commented last time we looked at this, when we looked at all the dendrobiums, that the orange and the purple shouldn't really go together, but they just do. And Insa said it's mapping on to a colour scheme that you get on crocuses, which is why it probably seems familiar, and therefore is probably more acceptable. And that's a good possibility, a good theory, what he has. Oh, I must stop bending over. It's troublesome today. So I got a watering day today, which is mostly on my feet. There is some bending, but not too much. So the zygo looks as though it's going. Change of colour on the lip, normal colour. First bloom to open, so this is on its way out. And that should give chance for the actual new growth to mature, and the other new growth on the plant to get going. That needs a repot. Is that going to come off? Nah, needs scissors. And then up the back there, the long spike with all the buds on, that's it's an Oncidium type, and it's tiger tail. Tiger tail seems to get used a lot. I think I've got a Cymbidium called tiger tail. Blooms are nothing like those though. So that's to come. That'll be a good show. They last reasonably well for an odont type, but they're a nice colour, nice pattern. So we'll have that coming soon. This Phalaenopsis I got at the NEC, so that was back middle of June, and it's still in bloom. A lot of the blooms have fallen now. You can see where they all were, and we're down to the final blooms pushing out on the ends of the branches now, so it won't be in bloom too much longer. But yeah, it's still looking good. Still love the colours. Very good. And then we've got the two, we've got this Coelogene up here. This is Uni something or other. No, it's not, Speciosa. And it's Burnham's own version of it. And these two latest growths have both got buds. And if I remember rightly, the buds stay as buds for some considerable time before they actually open. So we might not actually see the blooms on there. And they are supposed to be sequential, but that's only if there's more than one bud, obviously. And I'm not sure I've got more than one bud. This is a very small division, basically. And the two latest growths on the division have both pushed up a new growth, both of which are blooming. So it should develop into quite a nice plant eventually. But anyway, we should get those blooms. They're nice and big, beautiful colouring and markings on the lip. So we've got that to come. And then another two of the mini Phalaenopsis. Both of these are down to branches now. So this one's had its spike cut, and the other spike got cut off a while back. But I'm allowing the branch to carry on because it's got a good set of buds on it. There's nothing wrong with the plant, it's nice and strong, so we'll let the branches develop. This one, two spikes, the main spikes have gone, but the branches are pushing on. This one's not doing so well, it's blasted quite a few of the buds, this centre section here, here and here. And guess what we did with this one? We repotted it. Remember I've said all along, if a Phalaenopsis is in bloom, repotting it won't affect it. But if there's relatively small buds, then it will. And that's probably what's blasted these. The tiny ones on the end are still okay, and the ones that are almost open are okay. It's this sort of smaller size that suffer. So and yeah, so that's those. And then the only thing going on down here is the Dracuvalia. Again, has a nice bud pushing on. These are very large flowers. They're a nice colour, good amount of orange in there, and we've got that to come. And that's it for now. Buds and spikes. I say that's it. There is a possibility, although it is probably a bit remote. It's still only, you know, we're still only just getting into September, but it's possible there could be some spikes starting on the Cymbidiums. And I don't inspect those very often. I mean, we've had rain recently, so I haven't even looked at them for at least a week, maybe even 10 days. You know, probably since the last time we filmed them, whenever that was. But it's possible there could be some spikes there. Now, we are turning cold. This week, the weather's turning cold. You know, they've said, get your woolies out and you know, and your warm socks and that, because whereas more recently in parts of the country we've had mid-20s, this week we're going to be lucky to get mid-teens, and that's daytime temperatures. So I've got to watch the nighttime temperatures. I'm not fussed what happens in the day, not this time of year anyway. So I've got to watch the nights, because if the days are dropping down to the mid-teens, the nights could start getting quite chilly, because the nights are a lot longer now. Without the heat in the daytime, there is no heat to be held overnight to keep the temperatures up, so we could start dropping down quite a bit, in which case the Cymbidiums will have to come in. There's a thing that has to go with that. There's wildlife. If nothing else, there's spiders, which I don't want in here. I mean, you know, we had to use a smoke bomb in here once, but the hot box I will be using possibly this afternoon or tomorrow, but very soon. I probably won't do it today because I'm watering. Probably tomorrow we will use the hot box. It needs a good 4-hour session followed by another 4-hour session not too long after, you know, sort of to catch anything that's hatched out following the treatment. And when the Cymbidiums come in, the first day they are in here, I want the hot box on, so I can catch as much as possible that's come in on the Cymbidiums. I don't think it would kill slugs and snails, or possibly not even woodlice, I don't know. But technically, it kills anything that breathes. And obviously living creatures have to do some of that, don't they? Including this one holding the camera. And this one holding the camera doesn't really want to get anywhere near the fumes. So we have a procedure to deal with it for safety reasons. So all fans, the dehumidifier will have to be shut down, because when it turns on it's got a fan running. So all fans have to be shut down. The hot box has to be suspended from the roof, at least 1 metre from the roof. So I'll have to fix a wire up across the room. It's got to have clearance above it because it works like a chimney. You know, the heat heats the fumes up, forms a chimney around the outside of the tray, which forms a column of hot air going upwards with the fumes, which then spread out around the room. So that's how it functions. And it has to have those conditions. It has to have that clearance above it. It has to have the tray absolutely flat on the heating element. It has to have the sulfur granules filled up to exactly the right level, so that when they melt there's a given amount in there. It's not too full, not too shallow. It's all got to be done right, otherwise it just doesn't work properly. There's no point in doing it, you're wasting your electricity. So we'll be doing all that. But yeah, I want the Cymbidiums to go straight into that environment, so that we dispose of as much as possible before it can get round the rest of the grow room. You know, there's all sorts of things that could be on those Cymbidiums. But I doubt if it will get rid of slugs and snails. I shall just have to deal with them as and when I find them. But, it wasn't too bad last year. Mind you, we didn't have many came in from outside last year. This is the first year when they've all gone outside. So we'll have to deal with that as and when. But yeah, they could be coming in quite soon if this cold snap, you know, really starts getting to cold nights. I can tolerate down to sort of 7, 8, 9 degrees will be okay, but if it's heading down towards 5, then they're coming in. So that's getting a bit too low, especially as at the moment they're wet because we've had a lot of rain over the weekend. We don't want cold and wet. So, but you know, the cold nights, if they're not too cold, will help an awful lot with instigating the embryo spikes and getting those going in all the bulbs that are large enough already. So we'll see how we go with those, but that's to come. You know, any activity with the Cymbidiums I'll obviously film. We'll keep tabs on them as they come in, start to come into bloom with any luck. The earliest one should be the yellow one, looking at the notes of, you know, when they have last bloomed. And that, I'm hoping that should start having blooms opening around Christmas time, so sort of mid to late December. I haven't got enough detail to tell how long the spikes take from when you first see them and start arguing over whether it's a spike or a new growth. I don't do all that. But yeah, from the time they first start to when the first bloom opens on that spike, I don't know how long that is. This year I will try and make notes on it so that in future years I'll know that on this Cymbidium, from the time the spike comes to the time the first bloom opens is whatever, 2 months, 10 weeks, 3 months, whatever. I'll make a note of it this time round. So there we go, that's it for today. Sorry no Sunday video yesterday. Other things going on here, including me having a funny turn. I had a delivery in the middle of the day, and I heard the intercom go, and the button to open the gate from inside the house doesn't work. The intercom's still not fixed, so I have to go to the gate, and I ran, and I really had a funny turn. When I came back in, I went dizzy, and for the next hour or so I was really not comfortable at all, felt sick. So now I know that is way over the top of what I should be doing as far as exertion is concerned in my condition. You know, dashing to the gate is not an option. You know, if I have to get it re-delivered because I've missed the courier, then so be it. I don't want an episode like that again. So there is a limit to how much I can do, yeah, and that I've got to watch out. Now, weather permitting, this Saturday is my archery course with my son. Doing that together. He's paying for it, because although I've been before, I enjoyed it. I don't mind going again. And he's paying for it. It's a Christmas present, basically. Last year's Christmas present. Just got round to doing it. But yeah, it's 2 consecutive Saturdays, weather permitting. So obviously I won't be filming this Saturday, but Sunday will be normal. So yeah, sorry for missing Sunday, but these things happen. And it also pushed everything in bloom on the 8th onto the 9th, which it does. When it falls on a Sunday, I move it to the Monday. So and then we'll pick up normal proceedings will proceed in an orderly manner from now on for the rest of the week, apart from Saturday. It's just going to be one of those times when there's something going on every weekend, which there is. Archery this weekend, archery next weekend, Bournemouth show the weekend after, if the archery doesn't get postponed due to traumatic weather and it has to be moved, in which case I won't be going to the show, I'll be doing the archery instead. And then our show, the Wessex show, that's a week or 2 later, and then there's nothing at all till next year. So there's like 37 buses, it all comes at once. Anyway, enough waffle. See you next time, thanks for dropping by.